Hi, Joel.
Hey, Andrew.
How you doing?
I'm a little sweaty.
I know, I noticed. Why?
Did you? I just did a light boxing class down in the old garage, and then I came straight into the podcast, but I did shower. How are you doing?
I'm glad you showered. I didn't shower.
That's a usual thing, though. Nothing surprising to anybody listening to this podcast. How you doing, though? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to this podcast today because I think it's a topic that I really love, which is coffee. I think most people in the world like coffee, but
you're like an ambidextrous or whatever the hell you call that. You're like singing and playing and talking and doing all these. Multitasker.
Well, you know, I'm a Capricorn.
I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
I'm a Capricorn. I don't know what that means. How are you doing, Pedro? How are you doing today?
Not bad. Glad to
be.
be here with you guys.
Are you a Capricorn?
No, I'm not.
What are you?
I actually don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I think I'm a Scorpio.
That's why I told
October
you
24th.
You had to walk with
But
your
I'm in
wife so
between
she could
two.
tell
I
you.
don't know. I think I'm a Scorpio.
Oh, like you're on a cusp?
Yeah, I think
You're
I'm
on
a
a
cusp.
All right, nice. And so we're going to be talking about coffee and life and business and Medellin and Colombia and what the hell is going on here and past, present, and future. And we're just going to kick it and we're just going to chat. This is a very special episode number 52. Thank you everyone for watching. I taught him everything he knows, and let's see what I can teach Pedro. Welcome to episode number 52.
Welcome to the Colombia podcast. My name is Andrew Messia.
I'm Joel Duncan.
Pedro Echavarria.
Pedro Echavarria.
Try that.
That's a hard one.
Echavarria.
That's
I'm
a
not
hard
doing
one.
that.
Joel, what's his last name?
Echavarria.
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 I lived in the U.S. and people try to say that last name. I was like, don't even try.
Yeah,
Like,
just
Pedro E.
You're not gonna roll your R's.
You gotta have, like, what is that?
And then
An A
Pedro
level?
was like Ben. I don't know why.
Ben. There's our friend
My name is
Ben.
Ben. I was like,
I'll just say
Did you
Ben.
just say it like this? Yes, Ben.
it's Ben. Okay.
Ben.
But luckily we are in Colombia. Echavarria.
Echavarria.
Echavarria. Okay.
Echavarria.
And-
With
Echavarria.
an accent on the I.
Echavarria.
Yeah. So today's a special podcast, right?
Newhouse?
Peter Newhouse.
Peter Newhouse. And today we have Peter Newhouse.
Peter Newhouse in
Peter,
the
yeah, I like that.
podcast.
That's like a superhero, right?
Yeah, Peter Newhouse. Like he could be like the next Spider-Man or
Exactly. That's exactly what
Yeah.
Peter Newhouse.
something. Yeah. Peter Parker. Okay. Well, anyway, today's is a very special podcast and vlog. We basically it's like a vlog podcast because we are on YouTube, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram. So if you guys are watching live, make sure to comment. And if you're not, if you're watching the recorded version, make sure to share the links from Pergamino, Colombia podcast, and comment. If we take our comments seriously, we like to hear from you, whether you are criticizing heavily, aka trolling like a motherfucker, or complimenting us. I respond to the compliments. Joel responds to the trolling.
I'm getting really good with the trolling stuff now. I sort of laugh.
You
I laugh
like,
about it. I've matured.
Let it go, roll off your back.
By the way,
right?
this is something that Pedro does not know. This is sort of a no apologies podcast. We've been told that people love, like, particularly women will be like, I love the podcast, but the swearing isn't necessary. And then we have to say, well, that's the way we speak in real life. Fuck it. Yeah, you know?
Yeah.
Fuck it. Do you like it? And
No, I literally had to, I in one comment I wrote, I got to clean up my garbage ass fucking mouth. And she was like, oh my God, think of the children.
And we've gotten a lot better. I mean, we used to swear every like 2 sentences. Now we,
Get a swear jar, donate it, and do
A swear jar.
Swear jar.
Dang, we'd be
Somebody
bankrupt.
be rich. Somebody be rich. So episode number 52, by the way, people, a very special episode for those of you who did not watch the last few episodes. We've been leading up to this. When Andrew, Felipe, Jason, and I sat down, we said, hey, you know what? If we make it to, we do one episode a week, that would be 52 episodes, more than a lot of podcasts I've ever done. And it would be an amazing milestone. Due to unforeseen circumstances, sometimes we couldn't do an episode on a particular week, so we doubled up or whatever it is. And here we are, just over a year later. The podcast started in July of last year. We're now in September, and this is episode number 52. We wanted a really special episode. We wanted somebody that I think is somebody or a business that's pretty well known here, both here with local folks and folks abroad. And I was like, okay, what about Pergamino, which to me is, is
Iconic.
iconic for coffee for various reasons, which we'll get to, and hence why Pedro is here. And I'm super happy to have him here on episode number 52. Welcome.
No, thanks, guys. It's an honor to be here, especially on this very special episode. So thanks for having me. Thanks for the invite. And we're always, it's always fun to share and always fun to talk coffee.
All right.
Well, what are we drinking
Especially
today?
with beer.
Yeah, what are we? Speaking of beer, what are
I
we
like
drinking?
my beer. I like my coffee. I don't like my coffee in my beer, though. I don't know. We can talk about that.
Okay,
later.
We can talk about that.
All right,
So he's
so-
drinking Jack
Jack el
Destripador.
Destripador.
Yeah.
Jack el Destripador.
But
Very
he's double
good beer.
fisting. He also has a Metropole beer here from Metropole Beer
Shout
Lab
out to
called
Metropole.
Yeah, shout out.
Hoppy Lager. I'm guessing that
It's good.
I'm guessing Jose named that.
Yeah, probably.
Hoppy Lager, just a really great play on words. Happy with an O sounds like Jose's humor. Good
Is
stuff.
it in
Jose. Very
lager?
good.
It's almost like lager.
Yeah.
Like your
Yeah,
lager.
simple and precise. So.
Simple and precise, just
Yeah.
like Jose. Simple.
So yeah, whenever we need beers, we just hit up Metropole and they deliver right to your door. So make sure to hit them up anytime you need a beer. A really good beer too. It's not. I mean, if you need a beer, go to Carulla and buy a Pilsen. It's not. There's no comparison.
There's no comparison.
to these beers. These beers are amazing.
I know. I was offered a beer last night, actually, over by Dan's place, and there's a little through the garage. There's a little what do you call that? Like machine, the thing that sells beer. I can't. My English is gone now. What do you call the
A
thing?
refrigerator.
Yeah, it's called a refrigerator.
What?
No, but
You
actually you
forgot
don't
that
put
word?
coins in. You don't put coins in, but it looks like the guy comes up, you
Vending
give him the money. It's like a vending machine, basically.
Wow.
And they're like, there's Pilsen and Aguila, which do you like? And I'm like, well, I don't actually like any of those. And they're like, well, what beer do you drink? I'm like, I drink beer from Metropole.
Damn.
And then they started calling me all the names like
Metropole.
poopy and freaking what's the other word they use here?
Pinchao.
Pinchao and all this stuff. I guess I am. I guess I am.
All right.
You're gonna pick up that and tell me I was, right? Tell me, am I?
Well, you love to brag about that. You
That
love
I'm-
to say, yes, I am poopy. Yes, I am pinchado.
Yeah.
That's happening.
I drink Pergamino coffee. And we're going to get to that. Anybody that drinks Pergamino coffee has to be a little
Is
bit... It's
pinchao.
pinchao,
Is
right?
pinchao.
No, I like Pergamino. You're pinchao. That's all I'm going to say on that one.
Yeah.
All right.
I am definitely a snob when it comes to coffee now.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't
And-
drink La Bastilla though. Like it's undrinkable. Like
Oh.
you can drink. I mean,
Oh
you
my
drink a
God.
Pilsen, you drink an Aguila. You might not enjoy it as this, but you can drink it, right? It
Yeah,
goes
yeah,
through.
it goes through.
You can't fucking. It doesn't
Yeah,
go
yeah.
through. Bastilla
Yeah.
does not go through.
What's the other one? Sello
Sello Rojo.
Aguila
Yeah.
Roja or something
No,
like
Aguila
that.
Roja is. I mean, I shouldn't be saying it's about the competition. That's really not competition. They're a multi-million-dollar company, but they're. We sell actually the sub-products of what we don't, use for our roasting or
To them?
export. We sell it to the local, massive roasting companies like La Bastilla, like
Okay.
Sello Rojo, and it's basically everything that's crap. All the broken beans, vinegar beans, pink
Vinegar
beans,
beans?
everything that's rocks.
I
I,
didn't
sell
even
them
know that
rocks. I actually
existed.
sell them rocks. I sell them rocks. Everything that we separate.
Throw some rocks in my
Everything we separate from the milling machine. Everything
Wow.
in coffee gets sold. Everything.
That's crazy.
Right? And then you just sell it at a lower price. But you sell it to the local roasteries, and then they just roast the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And put it into instant coffee. It tastes like shit, but it's still instant coffee. And that's what. A lot of
Broken
people
beans.
drink.
I memorized that already. I'm broken beans, vinegar beans, and rocks.
And,
That's what you drink
Everything
when
that's
you
not
buy-
a good bean goes
Uh-huh.
into La Bastilla and Sello Rojo and everything. So.
So,
Well,
That's for up to you
before
guys.
we start with the questions, if I were to ask Pedro, and I just met you on the street, or literally like right now, because we've never actually met, and I asked you, what do you do? What would you answer?
Yeah, it's hard. I'm a coffee man, just through and through. Everything has to do with coffee. We're in farming, we're in roasting, we're in retailing, we're in exporting. Everything that has to do with coffee, that's what we do.
that's your family, though. We're going to get to the family business.
Yeah,
'cause that's a
that's our-
family
that's our
thing.
That's awesome, though.
So I usually give a bit of background. Like sometimes Andrew invites somebody on the podcast. I know nothing about them. I decide, I read the top of the brief, didn't read any questions. And I like it because I get to go in and meet the
Cold,
the
right?
people
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna back up. What year did you guys open Pergamino here in Provenza?
Provenza.
So we opened. So Pergamino was the original brand for our roasting and our retail operation, and we started in 2012.
Okay.
Actually, the company that is Pergamino started in 2010, so it's our 10-year anniversary.
Wow.
Actually, in October, in about a month.
Oh wow. Cool, amazing.
But that is the kind of the offshoot of the family business, which has been growing coffee for the past 40 years. So my father started growing coffee in the mid 70s. Initially as a hobby, eventually became a passion, eventually became a business. And then we decided to start our exporting operation, roasting operation in 2010. Okay. So the company that was the offshoot of that started in 2010.
So 2010, and you opened the actual location
2012.
So it was 2012. Just a bit of background. I got my gym membership in the Charlie Hotel at Ultra, and I think it was day number 2 or something. And I got a discount at Ultra. I could not even afford Ultra at that time, but I was paying 50% off. And it came downstairs, and I walked down that street, which I never walked down. And I looked, and I looked up, and I saw this coffee shop that looked like, I would say, like another country, right? It just looked different. When it was not what it was today. It was a little narrower.
Yeah, it was,
and I looked in, and
it
I
was
walked
a fourth
in.
of the size of what it is.
Exactly.
Of that store. That
And
store
Julian was there. Julian,
yeah,
right?
Julian Muriel. Yeah.
Exactly. Julian was there.
He
And
was
I walked
actually-
in.
That's a funny story how we hired him, but yeah, I'll tell you that later.
I walk in. So we'll get to you, Julian. So we're in there, and Julian speaks
guy.
like perfect English, and I'm like, where the hell am I? Because I'm not accustomed to walking into a place where someone speaks English.
And he looks, pretty hipster,
Pretty
like,
hipster, yeah. Like, and
it's
that
weird.
wasn't even a thing,
Yeah, it wasn't
right?
even
And
a
so I
thing.
look in, and I'm like, holy shit, I could do some quote unquote work here, whatever I called work back then. And I told him, I'm like, man, I gotta come back here tomorrow because this is great. And I went back the next day, and it was like it was paradise for me. It was like a little heaven in Medellin for me. That's before Pergamino had a big name.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were one of the first, original customers.
One of the original. I
remember
think
you
the
from back
first
in the
blog
day,
post.
but yeah.
I think I wrote the first blog post by any foreigner or anyone
Really?
before. Yeah, check it out. We can check the date.
Yeah.
To the point where
Send it to
people
me. Yeah,
used
cool.
to write to me to ask me from outside if they could order coffee. I'm like, this is just a blog. I'm just writing about Pergamino. I don't own the blog.
Now they can. They can't. They couldn't before, but now
They couldn't
can.
before. And so that was like my space. I think it became sort of like my office for a long time until, I'm one of those people like, when you live in Medellin and you begin to see a whole lot of foreigners, you're like, what the fuck are all these foreigners doing here? This is my Medellin, so you're protective. And I had my little spot where I always used to sit. And I think it was like 4 months in. And then I saw somebody sitting in my spot, that one down at the back in the left corner. And I walked in there, I'm like, holy shit, people are finding out about this shit. And soon I got squeezed out. I would show up and I never had a spot
It
to
was
sit
a
at.
jewelry shop right next door.
Exactly. Then they moved up the street. And so basically Pergamino was, I would say, my first pseudo office in this city where I'd go and edit photos, I'd go and work on brochures, I'd go and do whatever else. And that's how I met all
And
the
just drink
folks
one
there.
cup of coffee
One
for 4
cup of
hours,
coffee.
right?
Because that's all I could afford.
Okay,
That's
thank
all I couldn't afford. I
You were
couldn't
one of
afford
those
the cakes.
guys? You were one
I
of
was
those
one of
guys.
those guys.
Order ice.
That's the reason why we have to have big stores now in order to accommodate,
Yeah.
30% of the people that are not, actually consuming or
Oh
expending.
no, you guys did.
money.
They did a bastard ass thing to me. And I'm telling you, I could
Without
not
my
afford.
knowledge, probably.
Hey, it was his knowledge. I know it's his knowledge. I couldn't afford more than my one coffee or maybe 2 at Pergamino. And I show up
Hey, we're
one
cheap,
day.
though. We're cheap. We're good, but we're cheap.
Man, you guys took out the plugs from.
Oh yeah, we
They
did.
took out the
We took
charging plugs
That
from
was
computers.
Me. That
And
was
I'm
me.
like,
That was me.
I can't charge I got one battery in
That
my
was me.
computer, and then it was done. And that's how my introduction to Pergamino years and years ago in 2012. I wrote a blog post, and then after I was just forgotten, so I had to go to other places.
Yeah.
Plugs with me.
Yeah, I heard and went to more than twice actually to Peck. I mean, I was just kidding when he walked in. I'm like, I didn't want to start a conversation with him because of the fact that I didn't want to steal away because it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Where the guests will get here and we're not even rolling or anything, and then we start talking and they're like, shit, we need to have this live.
Yeah.
So I started and I was introduced to Pergamino, kind of like Joel, just looking for places to work, and sometimes I'd go there with my laptop and work, but I found it too distracting for me because it's same thing happens to me. 'cause-
Noisy and stuff.
yeah, well, and the people walking by and girls walking by, and that's
Terrible.
like sometimes I just go for the girls instead of working. And also I felt bad because I'd go in there and I'm a one coffee type of person. I'm not like a multiple
You
coffee
can't drink
guy.
more than one.
So I'd get coffee and maybe like a croissant or one of their.
You could have afforded a
spending
croissant.
more than an hour and just drinking a coffee.
and I'm like, shit, man. And they're looking at me like.
You used to buy croissants?
I used to buy like a baked
Pinchao.
good or something. Yeah. Yeah, because I
you have
feel
your
bad.
morals, you have your ethics.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
he's
And then
got
I feel
his
bad.
standards.
Yeah, I feel bad. So
Standards.
then I'd move on, right?
Yeah.
But I really got into Pergamino after meeting and becoming good friends with Juan Cano.
Yeah.
Juan
Dude,
Cano.
I love Juan.
Yeah, Juan.
Juan,
Who
if he's
doesn't?
listening, I don't know if he sees the podcast or
He does.
listens to the
He does.
podcast, but I love Juan.
Yeah, who
Good guy.
doesn't like Juan? Like I've
Dude,
never.
Who doesn't like Juan?
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody
It's
doesn't like
impossible
one.
not to like Juan.
He's like Mr. Coffee.
and
to
he
me.
works for Pergamino for free. Like he goes behind
know,
the bar.
I know.
And starts
That's
like
how
brewing
I-
coffee.
I know.
And then he like doesn't charge us. For
Can
his
I
work.
wash your glass? I'm like,
Yes,
come on, Juan. There's no
exactly,
need
dude.
to
It's
go
like,
in
Yeah,
there.
he goes back there and starts working, and I was like, "Wait, does this guy own this place?"
And
he's
sweating.
like,
He is a sweater.
He's
He
a
is
sweater. He's like
yeah,
me.
he
We're
is,
little
yeah.
sweaty motherfuckers.
he
Yeah.
sweats.
He sweats. Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
water on your cup. That's Juan sweat.
Yeah, so Juan introduced me to that,
Priceless.
and we used to go there and meet up all the time, and just have coffee, and then I'd go about my day. So it became a routine of instead of going to work there, it was like a meeting point where I'd meet him and somebody else. This was like 2012 to 2000, maybe even 16. Like it was a long time because we actually lived near there. And we just walk over. So yeah, Pergamino is awesome. So
Oh, thanks, man.
yeah, we love it, and obviously there's a lot more spaces, and we'll get to that. More locations around the city, so we'll get to that. But before we get there, I wanted to ask you personally, like, are you from Medellin?
Yeah, I'm born and bred in Medellin. I was born here in 1986. I left for high school. I finished high school in the U.S. and did college in the U.S. So I was away for 6 years, but then came back in 2009. Actually, I worked in a political grassroots. I'm actually a political scientist I went to college for political science and economics.
And economics.
Yeah, but the economics actually was, a last minute major because, it was like, who the fuck's going to hire a political scientist, right? So it's like,
Sure.
Who's going to hire a fucking economist?
Well,
I'm a major
somebody
in
will.
economics.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
majored in economics. Nobody
No.
wanted to hire me.
But yeah, I mean, I just thought about it and I was like, all right, I'll get the economics major. And in the US, actually getting a major is a lot easier than here. You have to be an economist. Like I have friends that, went to college for economics and it's like 5 years of just economics.
Yeah.
In the US, like eight or 10 classes and then you're in economics.
That's me.
Right? But yeah, so I worked in a political grassroots campaign for a year, kind of reconnecting back with Colombia.
Wow.
Traveling
crazy.
throughout Colombia. It was actually pretty fun. It was a really good experience. And then started in coffee in 2010. So I've been working in coffee for 10 years now. Fully developed. But yeah, born and raised in Medellin. My whole family is not only from Medellin but from towns nearby. So Sonson, Santo Domingo.
Sonson.
That's
Yeah.
everybody from Medellin has come from somewhere near, right?
Wow, that's amazing because that was going to lead into my next question because your English is like
flawless.
native. It's
Yeah,
native.
Yeah,
native
it's cool.
speaker.
They lived there for 6
Where-
years.
where-
And I
6
have
years?
to I have to work, constantly with English speaking.
No, but your English has always been okay. Let's reverse 10 years. I don't know. Maybe it's improved. It sounds pretty much. This is what you sounded like 10 years ago, and so you picked up pretty much fluent English in 6 years.
Yeah, I mean,
But he went to school, university,
I went to
working
school
with
6
people.
years, and the first 2 years were in New Hampshire, in the middle of nowhere, and there's nobody to talk Spanish to, so
Okay.
it had to be
Oh my
fully
gosh,
English
okay.
for 2 years.
What's
so.
that's a high
New
school. you
Hampshire.
finished up?
Finished high school, yeah.
And what university in the U.S. did you go to?
Tufts University in Boston.
Okay, Boston. Wow, dirty
Boston,
streets of Boston.
Wicked, cool.
Wicked.
Cool.
That's mad cool. Oh, wait, do they say mad? I don't even know.
No,
They say
don't.
wicked.
They say wicked and sneakers.
That's what's that?
Sneakers.
Sneakers, but sneakers.
Oh, you gotta wear your
Ah,
sneakers.
wait, the sneakers.
A cup of Joe.
Dude, Boston is it's a rough town.
It's a rough town. Yeah.
Not when
Not
you're
in
in
that
college,
way.
but you leave your little college bubble, and
Yeah,
Boston
it
is
becomes
is
rough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
becomes rough really
Irish-
quickly,
Irish
especially for
Boston.
even if you're a white Latin American, you're still Latin American. You're still, it's a rough town.
Yeah. And I dated somebody that I'm pinchado that went to Harvard. That didn't last very long.
Wow.
I did. It didn't. It was a long. It was
The
a
highest
long. It didn't
educa-
last long, and it was long distance.
Highest education I've dated is like high school. You
All right,
dated
we'll
someone
move
from
on
Harvard?
that.
Some Harvard?
She's still
From
in
a
She's
Harvard?
still in high school. Oh my God. Okay, so you're 100% paisa.
Yep.
studied abroad, came back, started coffee. You have a brother that has a bicycle.
Yeah, I have two brothers. One of them is really into cycling. Me too. We're both heavily into cycling. But yeah, two brothers. One of them works. Both have actually work. Well, one of them is a photographer. He's an artist.
Yeah.
But he does some. He's very connected to Pergamino. He helps a lot with design and helps us with some photography with Pergamino as well. My other brother, he's a nerd and he's all into like administrative stuff. He manages all the back office, all the boring.
Oh, so
stuff.
he works with you too.
Yeah,
I never met him. I know the photographer because I was
yeah.
jealous of
His
the
office.
fact that the fact that I remember when you walked into Pergamino back in the early days, it was his photos in massive size, perfectly printed, and they were beautiful photos, coffee farms and whatever else. This mother, one day when I'm older, I want one of my photos.
Let alone you're competing against a brother. There's no way your pictures are gonna make it on Pergamino's walls.
But both of them are connected. But yeah, Nico is both of them are older brothers. Obviously, my parents say I wasn't a mistake, but 18 years after the last one,
Ooh, yeah.
You're definitely a mistake,
definitely
bro.
a mistake.
That
Yeah,
was just like
I've
when-
come to accept the fact, embrace it, love it, whatever.
18 years
But,
apart.
But 18 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Wow. He's
Yeah,
like
like
your
my
dad.
brothers are now in the 50s. It's like my
Wow.
brothers. They're old.
Wait,
They're
so
old. I'm 33.
you're 33. Wow, okay. Jesus'
young buck.
age.
Like a young
The
buck.
Jesus age.
I'm starting to
If
feel
I could
old,
roll
so
back
thanks
to
for telling me
33.
that, yeah.
So Pergamino, man, my question, we'll roll into business because I think we've gotten through the personal stuff. I think getting to know you, and now we know that you speak perfect English, so we can't fucking talk shit and be like, oh, he
Not
doesn't
knowing about it,
understand. Well, talking about
You can talk
business.
shit. I have no, it's like
He's still
no
talking.
hard feelings.
If
No hard
Juan
feelings.
were here, he'd be talking a lot of shit.
Yeah.
He likes making fun of Juan.
Yeah, so Pergamino, man, it's obviously a successful brand here. Where did you come up with the idea for a cafe that was completely different than what we're accustomed to? Because I remember before Pergamino, I used to go to other coffee shops to try to do work, and there was no Starbucks back then.
With the whoremongers?
I'd go into what do you call it?
Juan Valdez.
Juan Valdez. I didn't want to say the JV word, but
We can't get sued.
Well,
We can call.
but I used to go into Juan Valdez, but they had a system where you were only allowed certain minutes of internet based upon, remember that?
Yeah, your
how much you
receipt.
paid.
And your receipt.
Right, and your
you had to put
receipt.
that little receipt code in.
And you were good for like 15 minutes of internet.
Capitalist.
It's like you have to understand that people, using your cafe to work is just part of the nature of being a cafe. Like it just, you can get pissed about it. Obviously, you talk to my father who is a little old school. And it's like, dude, I see a lot of people just not drinking coffee.
Yeah,
and like,
yeah,
it's like
no turnover.
it's a fact of life,
Yeah.
people, and it's part of the life of the shop, right? People are starting their businesses there. They're studying there. And there's a bunch of people that are going through and buying coffee and leaving, right? And then, people buying bags of coffee. It has to work that way. If it doesn't, it's a cafe that has no life.
Yeah.
People, you need
True.
those people that kind of almost live there,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Which gives it an identity. So even if we love everybody, it's like we would want for them to drink a little bit more coffee, or have that extra croissant, but it's fine. It's like
Yeah. So the idea to open up this cafe there, that came about just you seeing
it's
a need for it?
What's kind of funny is that, a lot of people that know Pergamino know about, the shops and the roasting business. Actually, our main business is exporting green coffee to roasters throughout the world.
Oh, wow.
So we started as a farm, right? 40 years ago, my father started. 10 years ago, we decided to start exporting our farm's coffee directly, trying to find a better value for our coffee, because even if we were larger size producers, we were still selling the coffee in parchment, which is a way coffee is sold here locally, to private exporters or co-ops or the FNC, like anybody else, right? And you would get paid whatever the price of coffee was that day. And coffee is a commodity. It's actually the second biggest commodity traded around the world after oil. And the price of coffee goes up and down every day. A lot of the times doesn't even care about, supply and demand of coffee. It depends on, the Federal Reserve, if they're printing money or they're not printing money.
Really?
If risk is on for financiers or not. Like, it doesn't have a lot to do with demand and supply.
But why is that? Why does it matter about the printing of money? Why is coffee so tied to that?
for example, the highest price of coffee in the past 20 years was in 2010 after the Federal Reserve started printing money. So U.S. was in a huge financial crisis. Money was being printed, was looking for a way of where to go. Where it went, commodities, right? Because the emerging markets, China was growing, everybody was growing, and people put on a lot of money into these funds that traded commodities. So it didn't really care if coffee was, was fairly priced. What it cared was that there was a lot of supply of money looking for places to go. It went into commodities. So it wasn't coffee only that went up. It went, silver went up, metals went up, commodities, soy, corn, all that sort of stuff. So when a commodity is traded, there's some parts of it that depend on supply and demand, and then parts of it that just becomes like a stock, right? A stock can go up and down whether or not it's really, true value, right? It's like Tesla. Signals, is Tesla worth $400? We can stay here and do another podcast about that. But so basically, that volatility of coffee makes coffee really hard to think about as a business. It's like I always put the same example. If you're starting a coffee shop, you're doing all this investment in terms of, how much money you're spending on it, your rent, the baristas you're hiring. Think of not knowing at what price you're selling your cappuccino. You have to know, because you need to do the math and say, okay, I'm going to pay for my rent, I'm going to pay for my baristas, and at the end I'm going to make a profit, right? When you're planting coffee, you're making investments that are 18 years or 24 years in the distance, because a coffee tree can last for up to 24 or 36 years, right? But you don't know at what price you're going to sell coffee at. Because the market doesn't care about your cost. It doesn't care about, how much labor is in Santa Barbara where we grow coffee, or, it doesn't care about whether it's raining or not and you're going to have a great harvest or not. It cares about whatever happens in the New York Stock Exchange and, the coffee price. Wow. So once we started exporting, we were looking for stability. So we were looking for, finding customers, usually smaller roasters, craft roasters that were looking for a specific quality, and we're trying to decouple from that commodity business, right? So people that were saying, okay, I'll pay you a price, and I'll pay you a fair price, a stable price for your coffee throughout time. So we started 10 years ago doing that, and we started developing relationships with roasters throughout the world. And that's where we started, understanding what these roasters were doing to separate themselves from the Starbucks, from the Juan Valdez's, from the Costas, from all these big chains that, they can market themselves however they want. But at the end, like, they're, massive, right? They have a certain quality. They have a certain view of how they look at their providers. And they don't have stable prices for their producers. They take advantage of the market when it's down to buy as much as possible because it's cheaper for them, right? So we started looking at all these roasters, and we started traveling and visiting them and seeing, okay, why is these guys in Portland having a line out of the door while they're surrounded by 4 Starbucks that are not doing as much business as they are? What are they doing right? So we started kind of learning the ropes and seeing what they were doing, and at the same time we were saying, okay, it sucks that we're starting to export all this great coffee from our farms. We started an allied producer program, which I can take forever to kind of talk about that, but we now work with around 600 small producers throughout Colombia, helping them connect with market the same way that we're connecting our farms to that final market, to that final roaster. So we're saying, how can we? It sucks that we're exporting all this great coffee, but it's a cliche, but it's a true cliche that the crappiest of coffee gets drank in Colombia. Right? 95 or 98% of the coffee that's drank in Colombia is what we call subproducts, what we call pasilla. Pasilla is what we were saying before, broken beans, vinegar beans, everything that's crap, or imported really shitty coffee from Brazil or Peru.
That kind of happens with also fruits and anything else that's exported.
Flowers.
Avocados, like trying to find that perfect avocado that you find in Whole Foods. It's exported from Colombia, and you find it in Whole Foods for $4 a freaking avocado. You can't find. I mean, you get a good avocado. You don't get the perfect.
Or like bananas. Bananas are a good example. Sometimes you go into the grocery store and the banana is brown and small.
The difference with fruit is that it's usually appearance, but the flavor of that fruit, no matter if it's not as big or as beautiful, it's still going to be great, right? With coffee, it's not the same. It's going to be ugly and shitty.
It's going to fuck up.
You don't have the good tasting ugly coffee.
So working with them, learning the ropes, kind of seeing what they were doing, and with this idea of like keeping great coffee in Colombia. Obviously, we weren't the first doing specialty in Colombia. There's a bunch of really great brands doing it. Every day we see more brands, and we're happy. I mean, we don't even consider ourselves like competitions with other specialty retailers, because we think that together we're kind of building this kind of market, and we need all the help we can get to really do that. And there were other roasters doing it, but it was limited, right? It was limited to find specialty coffee shops, people doing better roast. Fresh coffee was revolutionary. A lot of people were buying really stale coffee in the supermarket, and fresh coffee is crucial. You can have, even mediocre coffee that's fresh is a lot better, than great coffee that's been roasted for months on end or years on end.
Which is what Starbucks and them sell. And at least in Canada, you look at the born on date or when it was the roasting date, and you're like, holy shit.
And the things like they roast super high too. So when you mix like high roast with a lot of time, it's shit, because the coffee starts getting oily, and that oil gets rancid, and then that's the smell that you don't. But it's fresh coffee, good coffee. Keep it here, and so that's where it was born.
Yeah,
that's where we decided to start that.
Rumor has it was
crazy,
a road trip with you, who's your current wife, I believe. Is she your wife now?
Manu, yeah.
And your brother, who was it? I can't remember this. I think I heard this. Was it a road trip in the U.S. you guys went, or how did you guys do that? Just hopping around. There's something like that I remember. This like 10 years ago story.
We already had an idea, but actually, if you ask my father, he's gonna say that he was his idea, which we always said yes sir, it was your idea, because he had the original store. It was an old house that my father had bought way back in the day when it was like pretty much worthless. And now obviously it's in a good part of town. But that was where our offices were originally. So my father at some point said, hey, let's start a cafe here, right? So it was his idea.
But the style and the design came from your experience.
We traveled. Portland was definitely one of we did a coffee event in Portland. And it was like mind blowing to see the coffee culture in Portland. I mean, if somebody likes coffee, they have to go to Portland eventually. Even if they don't like coffee, Portland's a really nice. Not any right now. It's kind of a little murky with all that, what's happening.
What's happening over there?
But Portland is just an amazing town, and for coffee is just the shit.
Awesome. So that's how Pergamino. And by the way, for people, I know the answer because I've asked it and I've researched it. But what does Pergamino mean?
Yeah, so Pergamino is the literal translation is parchment, right? But it doesn't really come from the idea of parchment, which is this kind of the written roll that is done from, I think, pigskin.
Right.
But parchment is what protects the coffee seed from humidity, from external contamination, and it's only separated from the seed, which is what you roast and actually drink, only right before you roast or right before you export. So it's really the protector of quality. I want to say that, we did all these research and came up with Pergamino, but we had a terrible name, which I have sworn to not ever repeat, and only one or two people know that. No, I won't say it. No, I've actually, I think I cut my blood on it, blood trust on it. But we were desperate because we were opening up the shop and we needed a brand. And for some reason, I don't remember if it was my brother or me or, I don't remember who said it, but said, Pergamino. And it wasn't because, eventually we said, all right, this makes sense because, it's a protector of quality, et cetera, et cetera. But it sounded nice. It sounded, smooth. And we just kind of ran for it.
Yeah, I mean, just the design of the store, the shop. I mean, I'd been here for probably a year already, and to me, it was just like revolutionary. When I walked down that street, I still remember, like, if I can close my eyes and I can just like think about it, because I still remember what's like nostalgia for me is Pergamino in its first few years during Christmas time when they strung the lights in those big trees in front and whatever, and you could actually sit outside and like have a coffee. Like for me, that was like. To me, it's like the first. You say that there are other people that do specialty coffee and what's not, maybe exporting. But for me, I would always think of it as the first real specialty coffee shop where I started to learn more about specialty coffee. And just a bit of background is in that same year, randomly the government of Antioquia, which is where Medellin's the capital, contacted me out of nowhere and said that they saw my photography and really liked the style, and they wanted me to do some photos for them. I'm like, the fucking government of Antioquia? I'm just some Canadian
But
dude.
that's not actually random. I'll tell you about that.
You did it.
It wasn't necessarily me, but it was the specialty coffee program that Fajardo started.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who he called me, by the way.
That's where the political campaign. That was my first job working with him.
Oh, and you know he used to call me the Canadian. He never knew my name. He never bothered to know my name. He's like, Canadian. And apparently a lot of the photos ended up being used for exportation of this specialty coffee. And I never even knew where the photos went until I went to a finca and I saw like the family had it hanging there. And then one time I sat down at Pergamino and it was the bultos, the bags of coffee photo that I took. And you guys used to have this little like V-shaped stand-up thing on the table. I'm like, I took that photo. I know that photo. And so that's cool. So you were involved in that. I never knew that. And that's how like I would go there and Fajardo and other people would be doing and all of this. I'm like, wait,
Slurping,
what the
cupping.
hell is what, like I didn't know that existed in coffee, like the slurping and the
slurping,
tasting
yeah.
and all of that.
It's crucial. You
It's
gotta
crucial.
slurp.
You gotta slurp. I didn't know all of
It
that.
has to sound.
So
I'm that smooth.
you came up with this idea of opening up the shop here in one of the busiest parts of town with tourism.
Which it wasn't
Was
actually
not
busy
at
at
that
the
time.
time. It was
At all.
it was empty, man.
yeah.
We were like, I remember the first day that we opened. So there was this what we called Bazares Via Primavera, which is this like open air,
Yeah.
But back in the day, it was like a couple of local, clothes shops that put their stuff on.
Yep.
Like it was a
Bathing suit shop.
yeah, but it was
upstairs.
small. It
Uh-huh.
was and it was the first day we opened, and we sold the equivalent of today like $200
Yeah. In the first day?
in the first day.
That's pretty damn good.
But it was so much work, man. Like it was chaotic because it was our first day. We thought that we could manage the thing with three baristas, and it was my mother cleaning, dishes. My wife was like folding napkins. Leo, our coffee director, which manages export, he was like making cold brew. We were like 10 people behind that really small bar to sell $200. And I came back at that Monday morning and said, all right, this is not going to work. I was like, this is not going to be profitable.
Yeah, cold
at
brew in
all.
2012 to Colombia. Well, so that's my question. Like, how did you have to, or how did Colombian people receive it? Because I'm assuming that most of your clientele, maybe in the beginning, was mainly Colombian, right?
Yeah, and actually, like, it's funny because, Via Primavera is it's definitely our biggest store, and it has a lot of both expats and tourism. But still, if you look at the numbers, the other stores do a lot of people go through, and there are a lot of locals. So we still, primarily, I would say 80% of our crowd is still locals, right? Except, Via Primavera is a lot more foreigner. But it's been fun because, at the beginning we were, the concept of pour-overs, for example, was really kind of unheard of here, right?
Yeah.
Of like really waiting, 5 or 6 minutes for
To get
somebody
your
to
coffee,
brew a coffee. But actually, it kind of worked with the culture too, because in the U.S., I have a lot of customers that tell me like nobody's gonna wait for a pour over because people are in a hurry, right?
Yeah,
People
gotta
drink
go.
coffee on the go. They want to, they want to grab their coffee really quick. The coffee culture here, even for people that are foreigners, they're here on vacations. They want to chill. They want to, sit down, look at the crowd,
Spend
enjoy
all
their
day buying
croissant.
one cup.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And people that are Colombians, like what they're doing in our cafe are, they're working, they're talking to friends, they're, dating, they're meeting their future wives. I got a cool story the other day of somebody that wanted to put 2 locks in somewhere because to
That's where they
represent
met their-
that's where they meant. So like, it's fun.
Wow.
We
That's
let it.
nice.
and
You
the
let it
lock-
happen?
Yeah,
That's where I met Joel.
I'm gonna
I
say
gotta
no
put
to
my
somebody
lock.
to tell me I met my wife at Pergamino. It's
Yeah.
like I want to put 2 locks there. I was like, do it.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah.
But so the culture here is really it's slower, right? So it actually slower coffee worked with the culture here, and at the beginning, people are like Chemex. Well, what the hell is a Chemex? Right?
Yeah,
A
yeah,
V6. What the hell is a V60?
I didn't know any of that stuff. back then.
Basically, a French press was a little revolutionary. It's like so. It was fun, and we still like. I've always told our crew and everything like we have to take coffee seriously, but not that seriously, right?
seriously.
Coffee is an experience. Is a lot of people go through our shop because the coffee is great, but because they like the environment, they want to talk to the barista, they want to interact, they want to be the usual customer where they know what you're gonna drink, and a lot of people drink frappes, caramel frappes, and I have a lot of customers like roasters from the U.S. that are great customers, but might be a little bit more snobby and be like, you sell frappes with caramel and sugar in it? It's like, what the hell are you doing? It's like, dude, people start with the frappe. And if somebody wants to drink a frappe in the afternoon, it's like, dude,
why the fuck not?
It's done with good coffee, right? It's done with coffee that is ethically sourced, really high quality. It's the best frappe in town.
Yeah.
And people start with the frappe and then end up, let's try the Chemex. And then they start brewing. And then I got a lot of people that now like make AeroPress at home that started with a frappe in our town.
That's like me. That's all I used to order. That one with the foam on top.
Yeah.
I love that. Sweet, the whipped. I'm like, yeah, put the whipped. Of course I want the whipped cream.
Our quality director, Leo, which is our employee number 1 actually, because he was in the payroll before I was. He actually goes to our shop and a lot of times, has a chocolate frappe with,
it's that nostalgic, great taste. It's great, and if you have a sweet tooth, it's perfect. I got a question about that because let's go back to the early days, and I think it relates to Andrew's question. And I remember because even when I came here, and this is why again I could only afford the one coffee, Pedro. I'm really sorry, but you can walk around anywhere, and there was always the guys walking around with the little. And to me, that was Colombia. I'm like, oh man, there's a guy walking around with this little machine thing.
It still is, man.
It still is.
It's still, and coffee gets sold, go to El Centro and you're going to have, people just going at you, selling you, cups
500
of
pesos.
500
which
pesos
is like 10 cents. I don't even know what that translates to anymore. Yeah. Somewhere around there. And I used to buy those. And so I wasn't accustomed to going into a shop and getting, and I remember the nice brown, sort of off brown cups with the word Pergamino on the inside. I was like, wow, this is impressive. Not like the tinto that I would get downtown. But do you remember the first price, like what your price was back then for a cup of coffee?
Yeah, we sold a cup of coffee at, just batch brew, black coffee for 1,000 pesos was our first price.
Oh, that's not bad.
1,200 pesos. 1,200 pesos was our first price.
Well, that was basically $1 back then.
But at the time, Juan Valdez would have that same cup of coffee for about 2,500 pesos. So we were cheaper than Juan Valdez. But the idea was that, we never from the start wanted to be a snob brand. Like we never wanted people to look at us and say, I'll have that in a special. Coffee is not about a special occasion. Coffee is something that you drink every freaking day, right? Yeah. And we'll come up with the special edition, very exotic, variety or process or something that's going to be, $20 a bag instead of our usually $7 a bag or something. Yeah. But it's something that's on and off, right? And people, they'll try it out, and like the people that are really into processing or really into exotic cups of coffee, they'll try it out. But we wanted always a cup of coffee that people could drink every day. Yeah, and that's always been crucial for us. Like great coffee is this accessible luxury, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you want to have a great experience around wine, you have to spend a couple of you have to spend some money on a great experience on wine. Yeah. Food has changed a lot. Before you had to spend a lot of money to go to, I don't know. I mean, you had Carmen here, for example. Yeah. Carmen is great, but Carmen is, more expensive. For sure. But now you have, experiences for less money that, are maybe not as sophisticated as Carmen, but it's really good. Really good, yeah. So food, I think, is moving into this mood where it's not, you don't have to have, 3-star Michelin prices for a great experience. Right. And coffee should be the same. Yeah. Same as, beer. Beer is an accessible luxury, something that you can have as a pinchado, but have it consistently, not as this like anniversary thing, right?
Yeah. And people came in. So I think the question that Andrew is going to is sort of like acceptance. Was it? Did you have people coming in? They're like, so there were those like me that bought the 1,000 coffee and stayed there for 5 hours, and then there's the others that had the cappuccino.
It was low. It was definitely slow at first. I mean, I still remember when we started the first couple of months. I would figure out how much we sold that day and then subtract the friends and family. It was like, all right, we sold X amount, but 30% of that was like, my wife and my uncle, and that friend of mine that came in like to check it out. So it was definitely slow at first. It was definitely slow at first, but it was still solid business from first, and we were able to kind of pull through and it helped that, I mean, to be honest, I always say we were privileged that we were this, startup as the cafe, but we were part of this larger business that was exporting and had cash flow. So like it's hard for us to play the idea of, you know, this little startup cafe that didn't have, you know, we had the support of a larger
backing,
business that was
sure.
able to invest into, you know,
Then
having-
knowledge, a lot of knowledge.
and all, yeah, I mean, to be honest, there's nothing about being a grower that will help you be a good exporter. There's nothing about being a good exporter that will help you being a good roaster. And there's nothing about being a good roaster that's going to help you be a good retailer, because they're all
different businesses.
different businesses. But once you're able to learn the chain, then there's a lot of synergies between them, right? There's a lot of synergies, and definitely like exporting, we got to travel, we got to meet roasters, we got to, you know, be inspired by them, talk to them, learn from them, and then, you know, come back and say, okay, we're gonna use all this, we're gonna, you know, do a twist on this, and like we had a lot of support in that in that way, but yeah. When we started, we didn't know the first thing about, you know, a barista. It's like, what the hell? Like, how do you brew a good, you know, cup of coffee? How do you know, extract a good espresso? Like,
Right.
Now you do, 10 years later.
yeah, we're still learning.
Still
but
learning.
yeah,
And you had really good carrot cake, by the way, which
Julian.
That's what I
That's
used to
Julian.
get. That's what I was
Julian.
thinking of.
The carrot cake
I never
is
did the pastries.
amazing.
I always did the
Do we
carrot
get so
cake.
many offers about like people coming in? It's like, oh, we have a great carrot cake for your business. Like,
No.
no,
you do not.
We're good.
Like, we're very respectful with people that come in with like offers and stuff. Like, we'll try carrot cake. We don't even.
Do you
take
know
a
the
look.
only competition? I would say best carrot cake if you're looking for carrot
What's
cake.
out, Julian?
Outside of Julian. And outside, you still carry Julian's?
Yeah, of
cake?
course.
What's
Red
his new brand?
Velvet, Del Muri.
Del Muri. The
At Del
only
Muri.
other place that sells as good carrot cake is on the same street. Where is it?
Really?
Yeah.
Velvet has good carrot cake.
No.
Who has good carrot cake?
The cafe restaurant below Celestino.
Oh, Azul Selva. Yeah, yeah. They have good
pretty
carrot
damn
cake.
good
They have
carrot
good carrot
cake.
cake. Yeah, yeah.
And
They
you
have
say
good,
that, right?
And they have a good brunch. They have a better brunch than we do. I have to tell you.
Well, I
we
don't
don't
have
have a brunch, but yeah, Azul Selva is a really good. Yeah.
Those are top carrot cakes, by the way. Those are my tips.
So I guess the elephant in the room, COVID, right? We're talking pre-COVID, and nowadays you have to talk about
Pre and post.
pre and post COVID. So pre-COVID, what was business like for Pergamino?
This year was gonna be, you know, crazy. We started. This year was gonna
Be the best year
it
ever.
was the best year of our lives. Yeah,
For sure.
Business wise, yeah, definitely. I mean, we've been growing since we started. Medellin has been growing crazy. I mean, our success has been super linked to the success of the city. Not only because of I've always felt like people think it's just, you know, tourism and foreigners, but I think tourism and foreigners have permitted this kind of success from the rest, right? Because like they create this, you know, this basic demand where you can have all these great businesses that locals can take advantage of. Because if it was just for locals, maybe a lot of business wouldn't be able to exist.
No, exactly.
But now that they have that base, they can exist, and then locals can take advantage of that. So it's like, it's the opposite of sometimes what people think about tourism. It's always like, you know, they're crowding out the locals.
Yeah.
But it's actually, I think there's at least for now, there's been a really good synergy in terms of, you know, tourism and
But I think Provenza, where your flagship store, I call it the flagship store, is built. To me, it was built on the backs of Colombians with a very big support. Like that area just blew up.
Yeah. The last
Because
3
of
years.
just but just straight foreigners. Like there's some times where the reason that I wouldn't go and I became that pinchado snobby foreigner that
Like,
when I
there's
passed
too many tourists
too
there.
many tourists over there, I'm like,
Then
fuck
you can
going
go to
Pergamino.
10B. 10B is a lot of locals. 10B has a lot more locals.
Yeah,
than-
you know, I've never been in there. I've only passed. I've never been into the
Are you
10B
serious?
location.
It's beautiful.
You've never been in?
It's
Never been.
beautiful.
I've never been in.
It's
And
actually amazing. Yeah,
and
it's got 2 floors.
And it's 90%
Sick.
locals.
Let me
man.
tell you something.
It's 90%
I'm like
locals.
a faithful dog. Seriously, if I buy a brand, if I like watch a show, if I do whatever, that's where I go. I'm like, I don't want
Have you gone to
second
Oviedo?
generation.
Oviedo's
I've been there
different, but-
because these guys were
See,
working.
once you
there.
hit 40, you're gonna understand what we're talking about.
a
once you-
faithful old dog.
So 7 years
Once
out.
you start getting, you got gray, but he's
I got gray.
You don't have gray in your beard yet. Wait
He's
until you get gray.
dying.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't grow that beard. I can't grow that. I can't
Me
grow
neither. I got no
But yeah,
beard.
10B is very, very local. But yeah, I mean, this year was gonna be great. This year was gonna be great. Last year was really good. But once it hit, it was funny because it was the Sunday before that Friday where everything closed down. And I, at first we were all like, oh, this is, people are like going crazy on this little, sneezes, right? Like, it's like how many people die out of the flu normally in the US and the rest of the world. We all have this idea. And I think we've gone, back and forth, and we can, do another podcast on that. But I went on into our main shop at Via Primavera on Sunday, and it was packed. And it was packed with foreigners, man. And I was like, fuck. I was starting to get scared. It's like, we got to take some responsibility with this. What's going to happen? And that's when COVID was like this and fear was like this. And now, have you seen that meme, which is like, back in the day, COVID was really small, fear was great. Now COVID is great, like fear is like
small.
this big.
Exactly.
So that day I came back, I talked with the family, and it's like, all right, things are gonna close down anyway. We gotta be, the first out, we have to close, we have to be responsible with our crew. There's a lot of foreigners. And we decided to close that Sunday. But we thought it was for a couple of weeks before we kind of got our heads around it. And then everything closed down that Friday. And shit's started to get real, and it's like, all right, we're gonna be here for weeks, months on end, and our first priority was like, how do we keep our team together? We are actually super conservative, so we've been successful in the past couple of years. The fact that we have our export business, at first actually we were really scared about our export business as well because everything was closing down. We got calls. My March was terrible. Like the last 15 days of March was every day on the phone, getting calls from people saying, we're going to move that contract. We have to move that container to another month. We have to cancel that. We're scared. We just closed 16 stores. All our customers were closing down throughout the world. It's like this domino effect, right? And it's hard to have perspective there and say, oh, this is going to get better. It's like, oh, this is the end of the world, man. It's like, what's happening? So we kind of, just keep calm, said, all right, we have to move to online. We had actually, our online was, working for the past couple of years, but we took some decisions on how to, strengthen in terms of what we're selling. We started doing a lot of baked goods there too. And we just, focused online for the first month while our stores were completely closed. Still trying to, basically keep our crew together. And
but that's basically lines of bit. But the good thing is you at least have lines of business.
We were, again, really privileged. It's like at the end, we are diversified. We have our exports, we have our farms. People still keep drinking coffee. And after that first scare, the orders started coming in. The US started opening up again, Europe starting opening up again. So we started getting orders. So everything's all right, going back to normal. And actually, July, August, and September were crazy months for us in our export business,
which made up for the loss in others. So you balance out.
Yeah,
it's like a balanced portfolio.
We balance out.
That's
so
amazing.
The year is gonna be, it's not gonna be a good year. We're probably gonna, basically break even. But to be honest, in this sort of year, breaking even is just, fucking great.
And you have still all your staff are still there.
Yeah, we haven't fired anybody for COVID reasons. Like we fired somebody that had an issue, but that it had nothing to do with COVID.
With COVID.
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. That's like amazing news, and I don't think that's just on that point outside of Pergamino.
But I don't judge people that have, because there's a lot of people that have been struggling a lot. Especially restaurants and cafes. People were.
What about other cafes? What do you think? What's happened to other cafes during this period?
I think we've been a strong bunch. I think I haven't seen, to be honest, a lot of full closures. I've seen people, coming down in terms of their payroll and bringing down their crew, but I think people are going to go back and rehiring people. In Colombia is a lot harder than in the US to fire and hire.
What is it called? What is it? Masivo.
Despidos masivos, but not only because of that, because when you fire somebody, we have to pay some extra fees. So it's a lot harder. Like a lot of our customers furloughed their employees, which basically cost them nothing. They're like, all right, you don't have a shift. That's it, right? But I'm still gonna pay some health benefits and stuff. If you fire somebody here, you have to pay an indemnización. So it's more expensive, but our priority was to keep our team together, not only from a responsibility perspective, but also because we've invested heavily in our team. we train them a lot. People tend to stay with us for a lot longer than they tend to stay in the industry. Like
you have what's her name?
Paula.
Paula.
Yeah,
It's been like Paula. Like she was a little girl.
Yeah,
she's married now.
I always make fun of her because like when she came in, she got like brackets. She was like 18. She was barely like legal to hire because she was just turned 18.
Now I see her and I'm like, she's a woman.
She's our head of retail operations, and she was she's really
been 10 years.
Yeah, she went to college. She's actually graduating in a couple of weeks. She went to college, on her at nights and online and everything, and because she works full time.
Yeah.
And now she manages 37 baristas and all the crap that comes along with that, and 4 shops and
unreal. Yeah, I still see a lot of familiar.
And she's
faces.
from a coffee town.
Where is she from again?
From Concordia.
Concordia. Yeah. And what's his name again? The other guy. He always was at the airport one, which I was.
Julian.
Yeah. I mean, honestly,
he was also there for a long time.
Honestly, the airport. So, by the way, folks that don't know this, some people are planning trips coming to Medellin. Some people have been in Medellin for a little bit. The best, I was like, why does this not exist? When you guys opened your little store under the escalator.
That was a funny story too.
You could tell that story. That to me, I didn't know that was there, right? I just did not know. And I had loaded up on coffee, by the way, from your shop.
Thank God.
Loaded up. And I get there and I'm like, damn it, I bought this This is like fresher, nicer coffee. And I walk through international. If you go through the international gates, the checkpoint, there it is. This nice little store underneath the escalator. And it's, he was there and he was working over there. But like, it's the best place. Like for me in Canada, for the Canadians watching, when you touch down in Pearson International, the first thing you want to get is a Canadian coffee from Tim Hortons, which is nothing like your coffee, but it's nostalgia, right?
Yeah.
For me, it was like, I had 20 something bags of coffee in my bag. I still wanted some more. When I was passing, I'm like, I'm going to pick up 4 or 5 more here.
It's a perfect gift, man. It's the perfect gift.
It's amazing. Amazing stores. If you're going to buy coffee, by the way, I don't know if they're going to be open back. We're going to talk about that.
We just opened.
In the airport?
Yeah, we opened yesterday, actually. We were opened up yesterday. Amazing. Only 1 flight a day going out, but, it's like, screw it. And we haven't, all our team in the airport is still there. So it was like, even if it's a flight, we'll just open up for them.
Yeah.
And we're the only ones open too. Everybody else is closed. So that's good.
It is an amazing gift. It is I think it's one of the best gifts you can get. Don't get a little shot glass and like a,
a little, what do you call it? Like
trinket?
Keychain or whatever.
Get a bag of that coffee. The people will love you. It's more than the price of a keychain. But I remember.
And with the exchange rate, to be honest, I mean, not to oversell our product, but it's just, the level of quality of a bag of Pergamino in the US, it's probably about $18 a bag.
And what are you getting it for at the airport now?
Probably 9.
Half price. And great. And you're getting it fresh. I think just for
and directly from the
for
source.
those people who don't know how to give, I do not know of a better there's no better gift that you can when I walk and I hand over a bag of specialty. I'm going to say specialty, whether it's yours or Ihamia, where we practically live at now.
Love Ihamia, really good.
We go there, you hand that bag over and you say, this is a fresh bag of Colombian coffee, roasted. You can check the roast date just this week. So give it a little bit. People are like, Colombian coffee, roasted. This guy brought this in. There's no better gift. There is no better gift other than a bottle of guaro. But so check out that store there. Right? That's one of my little traveler tips. Wait, buy your coffee there if you don't want to load up your bag and just use it as like a little hand luggage bag.
Yeah.
I've heard, one day I just want to own my own business. It's my own business. I'm like, just don't do it. Because if at this point you haven't done it, just trust me, get the paycheck. It's good. Just, it's good. Because business is not whatever.
Take your vacation.
Exactly.
Do your thing. Leave, all that sort of thing.
Hey, a lot of people have these fantasies of opening a coffee shop, right? Like Felipe, he doesn't want to open a coffee shop. But we even have one of our current employees.
Everybody wants to open a coffee shop,
because of the appeal. People coming in, they know you. You sit down, they make a nice thing.
A coffee shop or a bar?
Or a bar.
Like,
I had dreams of a bar.
I have the middle of that. There's
a charcuteria.
A deli.
A deli. I know your dreams, bro. Don't think I just don't listen to you.
Cafes and restaurants are hard business.
Say that again.
Cafes and cafes and restaurants are hard business. You had Carmen. She can tell you how hard the restaurant is. Restaurant is even 3 times as hard as a fucking cafe. The hours, the times, the pressure, all that sort of thing. But actually making a cafe profitable is very hard. I mean, doing the numbers for it to be actually profitable is really hard.
Why?
Because you can get technical, but your average ticket is really small, so you really need to be busy.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I
It's
told
really
Joel.
hard to be a non-busy cafe and be profitable because the average ticket is so small.
What is that? What is the average ticket?
It can be 12,000 pesos, 13,000 pesos.
So $3.50.
Yeah. I mean,
per person.
And how many of those do you have to turn over?
It has a larger ticket because you get a lot of people buying 20 bags to take back home, so that helps out. But even the average ticket there is about 20,000 pesos.
Yeah.
So you need a lot of tickets to pay. 12 to 13 guys to pay. Rent. You're competing with restaurants. That a busy restaurant is gonna invoice at least twice as much as what you're gonna do.
And is the coffee shop? And this is I'm assuming that whoever's watching this segment right now that has pipe dreams. And they could end up being the best coffee shop owner in Colombia or wherever else. What is so they want to own this coffee shop? Is it coffee that, for example, a restaurant? I didn't know these stats, but I've heard it from multiple people over the last few weeks.
They make money on drinks.
They make 40 to 50% on alcohol, and so it's killing them right now because they can't sell alcohol. Well, technically, it's changing. So is a coffee shop making their money from coffee, or what is the main money maker in a coffee shop?
It's crucial to sell coffee by the bag.
By the bag.
That's the way you can raise your average ticket price.
If somebody walks out with a coffee bag.
Exactly.
20,000 pesos,
just
more or less.
I'll give you this idea. Like you sell, a Chemex and a cappuccino, that will add up to 12,000 pesos, right? And you need, 2 guys working for 5 minutes making that cappuccino. And a coffee by the bag, it's like it's 24,000 pesos, and that's it. You only have to hand it to it.
Right.
Yeah. That's it. So if you start adding up, the busyness of it, your average ticket's gonna rise. It depends, obviously. For example, we're roasters, so we have our retail margin and our roasting margin.
Yeah.
If you're buying roasted coffee from somebody else, it's gonna be a little bit different.
It's your coffee. You're selling your coffee. Yeah.
And our reasoning of being is able to move specialty coffee with added value from our farms or from our allied producers. So to sell the amount of coffee that we sell by the bag at Via Primavera, we would have to be 10 times as large in drinks.
Wow.
If we want to sell that much coffee in drinks instead of, coffee by the bag. So our goal is to go through as much coffee as possible in every shop. So every shop that we design has to go through a couple hundred pounds of coffee a week to be able to be worth our while.
And you have a smart design because unless it's changed because I haven't been in a while, as soon as you walk in the front door to the right-hand side,
coffee bags are in your face.
In your face. Okay,
and
so
they're freshly roasted. They smell really nice.
Yeah.
They're in bright colors.
Bright colors. That's really good.
It's all simple stuff that will tell you to grab it, smell it, and take it home.
So would you say like an advice to somebody who's going to set up their coffee shop is the number one is to have bag coffee?
Yes.
Okay.
Try to sell as much bag coffee as possible.
Okay. And then because we have a friend, we're going to call, he's been trying to, and he may be even watching this, have his own coffee brand for export. So I assume he doesn't have his own finca. So he's
exported roasted or green?
Roasted. Which
it's a challenge.
It's challenging.
It's very challenging because freshness there is complicated. So exporting roasted coffee, in order for it to be fresh, if you're in the niche of specialty, it has to be fresh. So it has to be air lifted. So air lifted is more expensive.
Can't go by sea or whatever.
Yeah, and you can't have a stock of it in the U.S. just ready. So for example, we sell online. Everything is roasted and shipped from Colombia. We ship through FedEx. It arrives 3 days later anywhere in the U.S.
Okay.
But it's shipped and it's roasted and shipped from Medellin. We don't have a stock in the U.S. or anything. But it's all end to consumer. So we sell directly to people's homes. So if you order, you'll have that package in your home. We don't sell to retailers or distributors or stuff like that.
Can't get that anywhere else. And what's your tip? Like somebody wants to get into the coffee, and I know again you probably hear it all the time. People probably come in there into the store and asking questions because they're trying to pick your brain on something. What would you say is current day? economy is opening up, blah, blah, blah. What's a good coffee business to get in for a little guy? Or maybe you might say nothing. So I don't know.
No, I mean, it depends. I mean, how large are your ambitions, I guess, and who am I to say like it's impossible, because we started not from scratch, because I always acknowledge the fact that we had a farm, we had a volume of coffee to move and a cash flow to use for setting up our shop. But coffee is becoming like the beer industry. It's really crowded. It's really, really crowded. Locally, internationally, in the US, there's I don't know how many craft roasters in every city that you can possibly go. So you have to really look at what market you're aiming at. So if it's a local market, if it's a national market, if it's an international market, and really see what your edge is. Is it going to be, your marketing that you're connecting directly to origin, to the final consumer? Always quality has to be the intrinsic part of it. Like there's no marketing that can fake, the actual quality. I always tell marketing, if you market what's real, it's going to be 100 times more powerful than if you market what's not real. Eventually, people are going to catch up to it. Consumers, especially now, are really smart. They have so much access. They have, now they're virtual classes of everything. So people are,
everyone's an expert now.
Everybody's an expert, and
even people that are dumbasses are experts.
But people, get to know their shit, and they care. They care about what they're drinking, how they're drinking it, what they're brewing, etc. So if you're full of shit, people are gonna find out eventually. Mm-hmm. So
we always say shit rises to the top. Shit floats. Shit floats.
It'll float
eventually. Even in coffee.
Well, but then you look at Nespresso and it's like shit doesn't float because they're selling 100 million.
I'm gonna throw the word out there. If anybody has heard of these people, they've been called the mafia. They're known as the Federation. What can you say about the Federation?
The Federation of
Coffee Federation.
The Coffee Federation.
Yeah. What is what? I've been.
That is another podcast.
They've been called the. They've been called the mafia.
Look, the Federation is something that was amazing when it started in 1927. It was great. It did so much for coffee growing in Colombia. Not only to promote it, to help the little guy, because the little guy was getting screwed by, the intermediary, the coyotes that were financing their harvest and taking 50% of their crop. The Federation, when it started, was well-intentioned, was well-managed, was the right size, and did a lot for Colombian coffee growers. So we have a lot to thank the Federation for throughout the years. The Federation became a huge bureaucratic monster in the 60s, 70s, and 80s during something that was called the Coffee Pact, which was this basically the OPEC of coffee. So there was the big producers of coffee, basically Colombia, Brazil, and others, got to this agreement with the US, which was trying to stop the spread of communism throughout the world. And the way they were doing it in Latin America was helping us sell coffee at a higher price so the government would have more income and could fight, the leftist guerrillas. The Alliance for Progress of John F. Kennedy, and et cetera, et cetera. So they set up this coffee pact that lasted for almost 30 years, which basically keep the price of coffee high. And the Federation was crucial to sustain that pact. And they were the only exporters of Colombian coffee at the time. And they took a huge chunk of that extra benefit and became this really gloated institution.
Like the Vatican.
Like the Vatican. Actually, exactly like the Vatican. Exactly. So they had, their offices in Paris were multi-million-dollar offices. They would have, Mercedes limousines. When your average coffee grower, even at, it's not riding coffee, it's not riding Mercedes limousines anywhere, right?
Far from.
Even if you go to the local FNC offices right now, imagine where they are. They're in Milla de Oro, in the Edificio Porvenir.
Yeah.
$1 million offices. Dude, that's not legit. It's like you can't spend all that money in infrastructure and bureaucrats when you're having, a struggling coffee growing is struggling. I literally don't know if the coffee culture of Colombia is going to be the same in 10 or 15 years. Coffee is not good business. Right now, we're basically getting saved by our exchange rate. But if you're selling commodity price, you've had 20 years of shit. The last 20 years have been really hard, except for 2010, which we had a little bonanza there. But 1 year of great prices for 20 years of crap prices. So the FNC has been this really, big bureaucratic monster, which has a lot of good things to talk about for the past, 80 years, but it could have done a lot more. It spent a lot of money in failed businesses. So Avianca was Coffee Federation investing in an airline. What the hell were they doing? Investing in a shipping line, a bank. All these businesses went bankrupt.
So one
and we're paying for it.
One of the things that I heard, at least this is when, again, the Fajardo stuff, and I started going on these things. I'd visit a coffee farm, and I think it's a great experience. I think Colombian people and foreigners should visit a coffee farm, but not like just a coffee farm that you would book in like a
not
tour.
The
like
Juan Valdez farm.
Exactly. Like the ones that we went to in Urao and, Andes and those ones, is because why I said that the Federation is something like a mafia is what people have to understand is these farms. And I think what you guys have done, what I know you guys work with Mercanta and other places like that. I think what you guys have done to me is something incredible, because I think you guys actually support the little guys and let them get paid for the high quality coffee that they provide. And you guys also train them to understand how to produce and sell high quality coffee.
The FNC, the National Federation of Coffee Growers, gets their income from every pound of coffee that gets exported, no matter what the price. So they get 6 cents out of every pound, no matter if the pound is $1 or $5. It doesn't care about the price. It gets 6 cents all the time.
Fixed.
So what's their interest? As much coffee as possible to get exported. They care about volume. They don't care about value. Mm-hmm. They don't care about if the farmer is making ends meet or not. They care about how much coffee is going out there. So all their philosophy is volume, right? So the reality is that volume is not value, because a small farmer has, people think that the small farmer will take care of their farm themselves. They have, they have labor. They have to hire neighbors. They have to invest. They have all this sort of stuff. And if there's a lot of variable cost in coffee too. Labor is the most important. So the small coffee grower needs value to make ends meet and to make, a profitable business. Mm-hmm. And volume is not going to solve it. Yeah. And the FNC's premise is volume, volume, volume. While we're in specialty, I have to admit, our business is not going to be for the 500,000 families of Colombian coffee growers, because specialty is specialty.
Yeah,
they
can't keep that standard.
Exactly.
They can't do that. Yeah.
But for the people that can do it, specialty means selling their coffee at twice the value, right? It means baking. It sounds like money, but it's the difference between rural poverty and rural middle class. It's the difference between surviving and having a dignified, sustainable income where you can, and people love to show this picture of, the very poor farmer, that's, with ragged clothes. What we love to show is that, that farmer that now has a truck and now has a motorcycle and now can pay for their kids' education.
You're saying now, because back in 2012, at least I visited. So my thing with them when you were there was I visited the top 10 producing, which is a story linked to that too. The top 10 growers that won the Cup of Excellence or whatever you call. I had to go visit and photograph these families.
And they were not middle class.
They were shit.
A lot of them didn't have. They had dirt floors. You had ovens in the kitchens that were filling the house with smoke. They didn't have the basic incomes. Specialty has to change that. If specialty does not change that, what is it worth? It's like what are we doing? And I always people like, oh, you're social. It's not social responsibility, man. It's good business where everybody earns their fair fucking share, right? Yeah. It's like, and I always tell people, it's like, oh, thank you for the gift when we pay the premiums. It's like, this is not a gift, man.
Yeah, you deserve it.
We're paying you for better quality, right? Yeah. We're paying you for hard work, and if you do well, your kids are gonna say, all right, this is good business. I'm gonna keep on doing this, and they're gonna continue with the farm, probably do it better. Go to agronomy school. Improve their infrastructure. All this, and we're gonna do better because we're gonna have farmers that produce more. So it's a virtual circle.
Yeah.
If we say, okay, we're selling all this coffee for all this amount of money, and we're gonna pocket in more, and we're gonna keep this guy's basically down, with a little more of what they're earning, what are we going to do in 5 years when these guys, the average age of the Colombian coffee grower is 58 years old? And
Wow.
it was, when I started 10 years ago, it was probably like 6 years less than that. So it's going up. Like there's no young people going into coffee because Medellin is happening. Bogota. This
They could
cities
go
are-
make other
these
opportunity
cities
costs.
are growing,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
It's like people are making money in the city, not in COVID times, but
Yeah.
before this, Colombia is booming. You know, put cash on people's pocket, and they're gonna spend it right. You know, it's
Yeah.
like if they've worked hard for it, they're gonna spend that well.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's very condescending for for gringos or exporters or whoever it is to say, okay, no, I'm not going to pay that premium because they don't know how to spend it. So I'm going to invest in this, invest in that, or subsidize. No, it's like, dude, give them the money that they deserve.
They deserve it. Yeah,
That's their work,
Yeah.
and they're going to spend it right 99.9% of the time.
amazing.
So,
What's the future for Pergamino?
one step at a time. We don't. To be honest, we're not. That's why always like people like when people say, "Oh, you're a startup, you're an entrepreneur." Like we don't think about ourselves like that in the typical way that that startups or entrepreneurs think about themselves. Like we don't have a grand plan. Like we don't have a business plan even. Like we just know that we're probably not going to be very big because you can't. I don't think you can do what we do and be big.
Back in 2012, you told me you didn't want to be big. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and to be honest, we don't really want to.
Yeah.
But big obviously depends for who, like
Relatively,
perspective,
yeah.
right?
But you
But
had
we
said
don't-
you didn't even want a franchise. Like, because I
No,
had
we don't want
talked
a
to you back in
franchise. Well,
2012.
fuck
I'm like,
franchises. Don't get me started about franchises.
That's why you were
Don't
like,
get-
I don't want a franchise.
Dude, if you're out there and you're thinking about, asking us for a franchise on Instagram, don't do it. Don't just don't
So that
waste our
happens.
time. We don't franchise. We'll never franchise. I'm not gonna say we're gonna have 5 stores instead of 4, but we won't have 100 stores. We will never be a big chain. We will never be as big that we can't control our quality and our service. So I don't know if that's 15, if that's 20.
Is that because your passion in that? Is your passion in
Because
good coffee?
that's what we are. It's like we are what we are. We can't be something different. We don't want to be something different. Even in our export business, like we're actually a medium-sized company in our export business. We can't do what we do and be 10 times as large. We just can't do it. We would lose what makes us special and what makes us successful. So I still remember when I did a business course after college or something, and they're taking this this study case of this family company that was really successful and they really wanted to grow it. And somebody asked in the classrooms, like, if they're really successful and really profitable, why do they want to grow it? It's like, because you always want to grow. Because if not, it's a lifestyle business. And it's like, dude, if you're successful, like, why do you have to be huge? It's like, you don't have to be huge. I respect people that want to be huge. I'm not going to judge people that want to take over the world and change the world. Like, that's great. And the world, I guess, at some points needs that hunger, right? Like people that want to be president, they have to want to do that in order to sacrifice what they have to do to be a president of a country or be Jeff Bezos or something. But you have to know what you are and what makes you special. And we don't really want to be that.
You still ride a bicycle?
I ride a bicycle.
I don't think. Do you have a car?
Yeah, I have a car.
I don't think I've ever seen you in a car.
No, I have to drive the car to the mill. The mill is dude. You don't want to take the regional on a bicycle. You don't. It's just dangerous. It's just not.
Snatch your bicycle, throw you in the river.
But yeah, I mean, like, I want to be a successful business. I want to be profitable. We're a family business. We are. My father has other businesses that he takes care of, and he has a different philosophy sometimes, but the cafes and the coffee business is now our brothers. So we're the 3 brothers that we're the partnership on it. My father is a great figure. He's always there. He's always helping us with ideas, and he's an entrepreneur. He's 77, and he is just so energetic and so full of ideas, and he's a great mentor to us. But it's the 3 brothers, and we are, with the 3 of us, want to have a great business that's not huge. Like, we don't have any ambitions of greatness, and we just want to be, we just want to do what we do and have fun with it and be successful with what we're doing.
I like that.
That's great. Yeah, that's actually a good point that you make. Like, if you're doing well right now, why would you want to increase because when you grow, you also increase your stress, you increase maybe your work hours. You know that it does a lot to you,
and you just gotta let things flow too. Like the way we we have a great team, and the way we've built it is just hiring people, nurturing people. Some people work, some people might not work, but we're not this business case where you have this just strategy where you have to hire 10 people.
Yeah.
And, there's a culture to the company. Like we respect that culture. That culture is really hard to keep if you grow really fast. So even I have to admit, sometimes we have 4 stores, we have 37 baristas at our retail side. And sometimes fuck, we're too big. It's too hard to, it's too hard to keep everybody on the same page and at the same level and motivated the same way. It's just too hard.
That you give actually.
So it's sometimes I was all right, fuck it, let's close this down. Let's just focus on one store. And, and that's the.
Man, I'm smiling. I got a bit of goosebumps just because literally I remember this. I had this very conversation with you because I had this very conversation with you in the early days when you actually had time to have conversations, when you could slow down and you weren't running around. And I remember you were so adamant about no franchise. You didn't even, honestly, you had said this is the store. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. They won't have any place to sit.
The thing is
where's the turnover?
We have a weak spot for my wife is an architect. My wife is the person in charge of the design of our stores, and we have a weak side of us to the amazing rush of opening a store and just thinking about the space and thinking about what we want to do and how we want to create the space and create the environment. So that's our. So the reason why we grow is because we just get offered this space that we just can't say no. 10B when we got offered, it's 3 blocks away from our main. It didn't make sense.
There used to be a furniture store, a little art.
But I lived actually right by it. I lived 2 blocks away.
Okay.
So I went I walk my dog every night, every day, whatever. I always passed through that store, and I loved the way it was built. And my wife did it too. And my wife was actually the one that found out that they were releasing the lease. They're we gotta get that. I mean, that space, we can do something really great with that store. And she has a partner, a design partner that she works with, and we have a really good relationship with him too. And it's just when we open a store, it's because we just fall in love with the space. It's all right, this makes sense. It's not a business plan. It's not, we need to open a store this year at this moment
in order to increase our margins.
No. This makes sense. All right, let's do it. It's a little risky, but let's do it. And it's all right.
Yeah, and I love that, man. I love that. And you mentioned something earlier about the followers that you have, the people that are really behind your brand. One of the things I also told Carmen and why I found it really interesting is that I think that a lot of people, even foreigners, why this podcast and format and the stuff that you're saying is really important is for people to know the people behind the business, because the big guy. The bigger you become, the more you get shat on, right? And more people assume, right? They'll be oh, Pergamino, those guys, they're the big guys. Shit on them because, they're the big guy, right? And so a lot of people don't know the story. They don't know what you guys stand for. They don't know what you're saying today. I think it would probably sway a lot of people to even be more loyal followers of the brand. Everybody's what's your social cause? What do these guys stand for? And all this stuff. And it's great that you can say that right here, drop a few F-bombs in there with the passion to say that. And I'm telling you, all my life, this is the same story I heard 8 years ago. So I know you're true to the message. And it's not oh yeah, we're big now and we don't,
we're retracting.
We're just switching our story.
Right.
Yeah, we have fun, man. I mean, it's intense and it's stressful at some points. And I mean, you have so many days that you're all right, dude, why are we, we should have focused on, exporting and we should have focused because we're small as a roasting company. But when you think of growing coffee, sometimes I go to the farms, why do I just not do this every day? I should just hang out here, man. It's you go have a fucking tinto and a good almohavana on the afternoon on a patio on Loma Verde, looking at the sunset. Beautiful. And you're I should be here every day. Yeah. I have the privilege of being here every day. Yeah, right. I should not be doing anything else, right?
That makes sense, yeah.
So there's a lot of doubts and sometimes you're all right. But you always know that everything that you do, has a kind of a meaning to why you're doing it and has a aspect to it. So it's fun and hopefully we can keep it like that. And at the end, it's a family business. We'll see what happens when my nephews, if they ever take over, or I have a dog, but I'll hopefully.
Maybe that dog will take over.
My wife and I want to have kids, and eventually, if our kids take over, or
Pergamino.
if our nephews take over, they'll have their decision. That's what life is and cycles are, and they'll figure it out if they want to close it down or grow it.
Well, we have this discussion all the time because Andrew believes.
Yeah, because I want to have kids and
different.
Joel doesn't. So we have this.
I'm
discussion.
I'm sterile. That's the only reason why that's not happening.
Wait, I think Felipe has
neither
it.
of them recognize me, but that's okay.
But yeah, the whole concept of like lifestyle business is something that has been, when people say lifestyle business, there's the business that like you're a multimillionaire and you just start this business that it doesn't make a profit and you just, it's like, do whatever you want if you have the money to spend on it, right? But lifestyle business is something that you enjoy as your lifestyle and it's your business, right? It's
lifestyle business.
It's like it's something that shouldn't be frowned upon. Like like it's something that it's your life, man, and it's where you are 9, 10, 12, whatever, 8, whatever hours a day you spend on it.
That's your thing.
It's your lifestyle.
I love that. Actually, honestly,
of course, it's a lifestyle.
Honestly,
business,
I've never even
It's
used that. Those words have never come out
Every
of my
business
mouth.
is a lifestyle business.
Yeah, I mean, Joel has
choose what your
a
lifestyle is.
lifestyle business.
So what's my lifestyle business? Andrew?
TinyPenises.com.
Wow.
Wait, I think
Speaking of tiny penises, one of our viewers was asking, what can consumers do to help ensure coffee producers receive greater fruits for their labor? Is there something?
What can buyers do? Consumers of coffee.
Yeah. So basically, you have to ask questions to the brand that you're buying coffee from. So I always say there's people are worrying about what they drink, what they eat, how they consume, what they wear. Patagonia is doing this for that, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing that you can have more of an impact on than coffee because you're drinking it every day, a couple of times a day. What else are you drinking or eating
every day?
unless
Me,
you
alcohol.
do alcohol. Yeah, but he's like,
And
there's
burritos.
very few things like coffee that every time you have a sip of coffee, you can have a good impact, right?
Interesting.
So you can be lazy and, just take in marketing. It's like, dude, Nespresso can do the best ads. They have millions of
dollars.
George
Yeah.
Clooney, goddammit. It's
Yeah.
like they have George Clooney. Have you seen that ad? Oh, don't get me started on the fucking George Clooney ad.
Well,
on
what about the
Nespresso
black
with fucking
George
Cuban
Clooney?
music in Hedico? It's like they have a program in Hedico and they have Cuban music in the background. It's like, dude, if you're gonna spend $5 million in an ad,
At least research
what Colombian because Colombian music is great. Like, can you imagine a good, Colombian music in the background of a Hedico fucking commercial? It could be great.
It would be great.
Better than I like Cuban music, but it would be better than
It would be
Cuban
more
music.
authentic. It would, it
So
would
wait, there's a
resonate.
commercial with George Clooney and wait, what is this?
Yeah.
No,
Look
and
it up.
then, the
Look it
espresso
up.
commercials. You never
I
seen George
fucking
Clooney?
hate
But he's in Jericho?
He's the off voice. No, he's the off voice.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
You
George
could-
Clooney's not gonna go to Hedico.
Oh, that's what I
He
was wondering.
should,
I was like,
but he's
yeah.
not gonna
But
go
you
to
could
Hedico.
have
He's
the
the
black.
ambassador of the brand, right?
But
Yeah, he's the ambassador.
you could have the black George Clooney, the Blooney.
Wow, that's good. That's good.
Wow! Holy shit! I was about
prefer
to.
that one.
I was gonna
I
go
prefer that
Clooney.
one. I
I was gonna say that you got a little bit. I said you could be the Colombian George Clooney if you
dude.
just diet out a little bit.
Yeah, we got
you
the
know,
Blooney.
No, definitely not
The
the
Blooney.
The
No, I don't.
Blooney.
But
think-
anyway, you can be lazy and take in all the marketing and accept the marketing and say, okay, I'm going to buy an espresso because they're as good as whatever. You can go in for the certifications, which a lot of people do. So Rainforest certified, Fair Trade certified.
Yeah.
Fair Trade certified is
Bullshit.
by
Yeah,
the
I've
way.
heard of that.
So a lot of all these certifications are just kind of like brand washing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Just trust the brand that you're drinking, right? Like you know how to trust. You know that it's a local brand. You know, hopefully you go there often. You know the people. You probably even know the owner if it's a local brand. You follow their social media. You know you have a crap. Like you know if they're bullshitting. Like you know if you're bullshitting. You ask the questions. What are your policies? How are you looking at transparency? How do you know your chain is working? And coffee is something that, transparency is becoming more and more important. And a lot of our consumers, our customers in the U.S., I can name, a couple of roasters that, they're doing it right. They're caring about, and they ask us. They come there and say, how much are you paying? Like trust us because they know us, but they're still asking the questions like, all right,
Yeah.
how much are you paying producers?
That's good.
Show me your transparency report.
Yeah,
What is your, and we give them our margin. We give them how much we're paying farm gate, which is what the producer gets. And everybody's making a margin. We're not doing this out of charity. And we're always clear
No, you're
about
a business.
that.
Right.
We're
Yeah,
a
you're a
business.
business.
But we're a business that that are committed to transparency, and we're committed for everybody making what they want, what they need to make in order for the business to work. Even the roaster has to make a business.
Everybody has to make
If
money.
if the roaster is a charity, they're a different side of they're not going to work.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So
heard that.
I guess my closing question would be, what is your opinion of, apart from coffee and from your business, right now Colombia is going through some tough times because of the whole COVID thing. We've had one of the longest lockdowns in the world. So a lot of small businesses are suffering. Employees have suffered as well. And on top of that, now we're going to do some protests because we had our own George Floyd moment where the police abused their power and killed someone. So there are protests across the country.
We're highly polarized at the time.
It's polarized, more polarized than it has been in more recent times. I mean, the whole political side of things, without leaving that out. What is your opinion of what is the future for Colombia and tourism in Colombia?
I'm an optimist. I have this discussion with my father a lot, which actually shared the link, so maybe he's listening. Yeah. But I understand why people can look at Colombia and be scared, right? I mean, we're a country that has had a history of violence, not unique to Latin America. I mean, just you read the history of Central America, read the history of
of course,
the Sendero Luminoso in Peru, etc. Like Latin America has had for many, and we could stay here forever talking about what we think are the reasons for that. But Colombia has had a violent past, together with the drug on wars has made that a lot worse, and the 80s and 90s were terrible. I mean, we lived that we had to move away from Medellin in the early 90s. Our family, we lived in Bogota for 3 years. We couldn't go to our coffee farms for 5 years in the worst part of the late 1990s and early 2000s because Santa Barbara was fought from the paramilitaries on one side and the guerrilla on the other. So one day the paramilitaries were in control, the other day was the guerrillas in control, the other day was the government in control. So it was just kind of crazy. So it's easy to be pessimistic, but at the same time, that past, how far we've gone from, like we are, no matter how many problems we have right now, how much polarizing we have, how much Uribes or Petros or whatever we have, Colombia is this resilient nation that we've been able, like I remember my first class in when I was studying political sciences, and it was debated whether Colombia was a failed state or not, and that was 2003. Failed state. I was like,
failed state.
What do you mean a failed state? It's like there's infrastructure, man. Go to Medellin. Even in the 2000s, Medellin, we had a shitload of trouble, but we had highways and the metro system. Like this thing worked, man, right? Yeah. And Colombia is this resilient nation that has been gone through so much in the past. And I remember talking to my father when this whole crisis started, and he said, we've gone through so much, man. Like this is hard, and there's a lot of people struggling with this, and a lot of people will struggle with this, and this is gonna be real. But we've gone through so much. Yeah. That this is just,
a cakewalk.
this is a kind of a cakewalk compared to what we've gone through, right?
That's a great point.
So I think that, I'm an optimist. I think that, things are going to go up and down in the next couple of years. It's just, the way it happens. We don't have the institutions. I mean, you look at the US right now, it's like, talk about institutions and the risk of institutions with this next election. And like the richest nation on the earth is having, a debate on whether, their election is going to be legitimate, right? It's like, this is incredible. Yeah. So this is something the world is going through a very complicated time, and Colombia is not an exception. But I think we have strong enough institutions for, being able to survive probably even the worst case scenarios of the right or of the left. And I think we have we have the people, we have the motivation, we have the spirit. I'm an optimist. I think that Colombia is struggling, but we'll be better. We'll be better. We'll be stronger.
What about you, Joel? What do you think?
I mean, my perspective is as a foreigner, one living here, and this is obviously the roughest time I've seen in the last 9 years. You hear little things popping up. You don't, not what's happening right now. One, from an economic perspective. Two, because COVID has caused tourism to come to a grinding halt. In my 9 years here, I've seen tourism go like this. I've seen everything go like this. I bet we were talking about coffee farms.
You've been in the bonanza.
Exactly.
The last 9 years have been the best 9 years of our history.
So, and that's what we're accustomed to. We're accustomed to a new hostel, a new restaurant, a new coffee shop popping up, an extension of the metro system or something. And now all of a sudden, stuff is either stagnant or going down, which happens in a lot of countries. Whether it's the U.S. or Canada, things can be stagnant for a few years, or they can be in decline. And I think because when I first came here, the thing I told my dad, the thing I told everybody is like, this place is blowing the fuck up. It's going to be so amazing. And so right now we're in a point where things are not so amazing. Yeah. And it seems doom and gloom, but that's maybe just cyclical and it'll just like spring back up. What I was telling Andrew today as we were having a coffee is I was like, man, you saw like last night I was in a cab and the radio station, they're like, send us your videos about what's going on in the centro and whatever, shit's like really hot and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, man, I just hope, and Andrew said it's not going to come here. I was in Envigado this morning near the park and it's perfect. You know, things seems cool. There are cops passing by, nothing's is wrong. And I was like, I just hope, right? Because the media is a very big thing, right? If the New York Times, I read a New York Times article yesterday about what was happening in Bogota. If the suddenly,
it's great. I mean, you can't deny it. I mean, there's some crazy.
It's crazy
stuff
shit.
going on, yeah.
But the foreigners and what the United States is a superpower. What the media is capable of doing with one article, and you know, one photographer posts 4 or 5 really impactful photos of like maybe a riot in Centro that might not last. It could really put another 2, 3, 4, 5 months back on your coffee shop might not see a person, you know.
And we were actually having this same discussion in November before COVID, right?
Yeah.
Remember the protests,
yeah,
right? Yeah. And you know, it's as societies, you know, become richer and grow, people expect more, and as they should, you know. People expect more, and a lot of people be like, you know, what are you asking for after 9 years of progress? Like more. And, you know, at the end, people ask for more. And there's still a lot of inequalities in Colombia. And I think we still have to address the huge issues. Like the fact that I'm an optimist doesn't mean that, you know, I'm not a realist. And we have so many issues to handle. But yeah, tourism is probably going to get hurt by every negative article that comes out. But again, I think people are smarter and smarter, right? And people, like even the fact that people come to Medellin, a lot of the times, you know, it's like a lot of people are coming in with a lot of taboos, and they're still coming, right? They still want to look, they still want to discover something new, and they still, you know, are reading in the internet, and they're reading a bunch of shit, and they're reading a lot of other articles like that are talking about great stuff about Medellin. So I think that in this over-communicated world, a lot of the negative stuff gets sometimes a lot of attention, but a lot of the positive stuff, we tend to be pessimists, right? And we tend to be scared, and it's always a lot of times it's a very powerful sentiment. But you know, again, I'm an optimist. And I think that we just have so much stuff going for us. And I think the way people are thinking about tourism has changed so dramatically, and I think it's long lasting. I think the whole idea of, you know, oh, I want to see the Eiffel Tower, or it's like that sort of thing. It's always going to be there. The Eiffel Tower is always going to have hundreds of thousands of people, right? But there's like so many people that want to go and say, all right, I want to go travel some place that I really actually, you know, legitimately find something there that's just not a picture, right? Yeah. And I think at the end, like wrapping it up, I think one of the great things about Pergamino is that a lot of the times we're that anchor for a lot of tourism that it comes to Medellin, and they're like, they go up and about, but that little find is Pergamino. Like they that's their base of where they, you know, they structure their day, they structure their trip, and that's their base a lot of the time. So they can go to Cartagena and then come back and go back to Pergamino
Yeah, of
to
course.
figure out on, like their freaking whatever, where they're going next.
Yeah.
And there's just so much stuff to see in Colombia. It's like, forget about Medellin, like there's so much stuff to see in Colombia. And 90, I don't know, 5 or 99% is safe, is nice, is fine. You're going to find amazing people that are going to treat you so well. It's so cheap.
Yeah, it's so cheap, yeah.
So at the end, it's like we have stuff going against us, but I think we have a lot of stuff going for us. I'm an optimist.
I like that too. I like that.
Yeah, that's a great. Well, for me, I think Colombia is, like you were saying, is a resilient country, and politics aside, I think that for the most part, people want to work. People want to do the right thing, whether it's Colombia or anywhere else in the world. But speaking about the place where I live, I know for a fact that here in Medellin, the people, the paisas, they want to work. They want to have a job. They want to be proud of what they do. So I think it's inevitable that we're going to get over this hump right here that's going on. I was thinking this morning, we were talking about 9/11. Today is 9/11. And we were thinking about, what happened in the United States, 9/11. And even though that it was a tragedy for the United States, but it was a tragedy for the entire world. It was like, shit, something happened over there. But now we're living through something that has happened to the entire world, which is COVID. And we have to have that same fighting spirit, I think, like that same. And that's why and I have no hate towards or any beef with, Bogota or Cali or whatever, because I haven't lived there. I don't know what the people are like there that much, but I know that the paisas
They have great food.
guerrilleros, man. They like, there's a saying, there's like, los paisas no se varan. They're shit.
We have a pioneer spirit. We have a pioneer spirit.
It's incredible, and I have no doubt that things are going to bounce back. It may take 5 years, but when it does, it'll be amazing. So either way, I think this podcast was amazing. So I want to personally thank you for coming on. And
thanks for having me. It was fun. It was
very
really
insightful.
Fun.
Very insightful. Like it was one of the most intellectual podcasts we've had. Yeah. Which is great because you are a political science major and economist, and
he goes to bed reading that stuff.
And the people that watch this probably sitting there like, Andrew's not saying much. I'm just like here listening and learning. I'm like, okay, I did not know that.
We'd have fun. We've had
fun. That was awesome. We should definitely do this again. Have more drinks. We're gonna go to a bar. Oh wait, I'm supposed to be saying that.
Yeah,
I have to pee very
badly. You gotta
badly.
bring your wife back on this. We'll talk about some architecture.
Have you ever had to pee so much that you could feel it in your teeth?
She would have had fun here.
Like, have you ever had to pee so badly that you could feel it in your teeth?
Like coming out of your teeth?
Like right now? Yes, let's go.
I really need to pee.
Yeah, like let's feel it in our teeth. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming through.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to hit a like on his Facebook page, Pergamino.
Buy a bag of goddamn coffee.
If you're in the US, us.pergamino.co, and you can buy online. We'll ship, and 2 or 3 days later, it's going to be freshly roasted in your door. Anywhere, any zip code in the US, and actually Canada.
That's what's up.
That's what's up.
That's what's up. See you guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Yo, that was awesome. Thank you.
I need to
I have to pee so bad. It's a race to the bathroom now.
If you want to see Andrew in a skinny leopard print thong, please be sure to follow us and listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, or any other major podcast platforms. And Andrew, if they want to see our ugly faces, what should they do?
They could see us on Facebook, on Instagram, and YouTube for show.